Day in and day out, I feel like our empathy for each other is absolutely dying as a species. Like it's kind of insane how much we don't really care about our fellow human beings. And I'm not trying to come from like an ignorant perspective where I'm like, hey, you should care for absolutely everybody when there are horrible, horrible human beings out there. Don't get me wrong. But I feel like for the average person just trying to get by their day and be decent, I feel like the care for each of them is incrementally smaller than what it used to be. Whether it's like people point out there's NPC behavior and stuff like that, or people just trying to go through their day, or they've been living on autopilot. I don't necessarily know. And I think a big product of it is the fact that so much on social media shows us how horrible people can be. This isn't also trying to be ignorant of those that, are nice to approach but have malicious intent or horrible thoughts, behind that smile. But even just for the genuine people aren't the loudest in the room. Say 5% of the human population is absolutely horrible people and the 95 are actually genuine good people. Most people are still going to think the average person is horrible because that 5% is the loudest. They get the most attention because, I don't know, it's like a car crash. You can't take your eyes off of it. But like they engage with parts of us, whether it's on social media or in person, that is hard to look away from. And instead, that kind of just paints a picture of how the average person you think would actually be. When in reality, a lot of us are just chill. We just don't feel the need to be the loudest in the room or to get all the attention on us or be narcissistic in a sense. Now, realistically, I don't think that those numbers are true when it comes to like the decency of the average human being, but I do think there is a large majority of us that are actually just chill, rational, decent human beings just trying to get through life. But I do worry that because we see the loudest shit on the internet, a lot of our perception is that the average person is that. And because of that, next to all the horrific things that we just constantly see on the internet, our empathy is just dying for each other. We don't really think a lot of people are as capable or competent or even worth being kind to. And I think that's a genuine problem because that is something that if you look within, you might not think you do, but you do approach a lot more people with that mindset or that I guess, pre-established notion. I don't know if that's the word for it. And this is weirdly at a time when supposed to be at our most connected. I think that just paints a very grim picture of what the future looks like for us later down the line if it's getting to a point where we can't even sympathize or empathize for our fellow human being just going through stuff. Say, for example, somebody does something slightly cringy or even like a little bit out of pocket on the internet, and if that's not perceived as more of a humorous thing, and more of as a cringy thing, we absolutely rip on that person. As if all of us haven't had a cringy experience in our life, or all of us haven't had a negative experience, or gotten rejected, or something along the lines. Like, we grill people on the internet for very basic things that most of us have been through. And don't get me wrong, in some instances, shit is just funny to point and laugh at. I will be real here. Like, I'm not trying to be holier than thou and say, like, oh, we should all be better without, calling out my own contradictions. But I think it's gotten to a point where it's to the extreme. We harp on anybody for anything, right? Like an example that I think off the top of my head is along the lines of like, hey, people say men should be more in touch with their feelings, right? And then when they are, they're called gay in a derogatory way. So then that puts a lot of dudes in a mindset of like, okay, well, do I be in touch with my feelings or like do I open up about these sorts of things when I'm just going to get made fun of or treated like shit or just called derogatory terms? Like how do I properly approach this sort of thing without the risk of my own feelings being hurt? I mean, that's just one example. Let me think of another. Women are taught to uphold the impossible beauty standard and expected to keep that. And if they even dip a little bit outside of these beauty standards, they're absolutely ridiculed and harped on. And I think it's now starting to bleed into men with like the whole looks maxing shit right now. But it's crazy that like men are getting a little bit of taste of what women have been like feeling for years. And it's just crazy thinking that like we set these boundaries and standards up for ourselves only to continue hurting the average person. Even outside of that, you spend like 5 minutes on Twitter and you can already see just like some of the worst human beings. Honestly, a lot of them are probably bots, but I think a big part of it kind of stirs the engagement of getting out people's worst thoughts about each other. I don't know. That's one of the platforms that you just go to be angry or to just shit on people for absolutely no reason. But like, you could go to a Twitter comment section, for example, and see people actually enjoying stuff about their lives. Something that's not negative at all whatsoever, right? And people are just vibing, doing their thing, living life. And someone will find any sort of reason to point out something negative about them. They either hate on them for their looks, the way their voice sounds, the way they're acting, the way they're moving. Literally, they will pick apart absolutely anything about this individual just to be able to hate on them. Someone could say, I really like this movie, and then someone would say, oh my God, you're a fucking idiot for enjoying this sort of film. Or somebody could say something along the lines of, like, hey, I really love waffles, and someone will engage by saying, so you fucking hate pancakes. I've used that example before. But overall, people just, it seems like we're pushing towards more of a hateful and less empathetic society. Like, we've lost a part of our humanity because we're so used to dealing with whether it's algorithms or whether it's just a shitty attitude of a lot of people, but not the average person, that we now go with this approach of just automatic negativity to everything, even though that loud ass group is still the minority, is still the small percentage of the overall human population. It's just getting sad that it's at a point where, like, genuine good people are now getting affected by that small majority, and because they're getting affected, they're slowly tilting towards and turning into that minority of people. I just hope that at some point one day we'll learn to really, really empathize and feel for each other and be able to connect on a better basis than what we have been doing now. Leave.